Now, Gary Lineker has found himself at the centre of another impartiality row after reposting a tweet calling for Israel to be banned from international football. The Match of the Day presenter reposted this tweet from the Palestinian Football Association, me neither, which is calling upon FIFA and the International Olympic Committee to sanction Israel over its bombing of Gaza. Jewish leaders and Conservative MPs have condemned Lineker's intervention, with one Tory describing the former England player as an ill-informed, ignorant commentator. Lineker was forced, of course, to step down from BBC presenting duties last year after he likened the rhetoric of the then Home Secretary Suella Braverman to that of Nazi Germany, but he soon returned after an agreement was reached on his social media use. On this one, though, a BBC source says we aren't going to give a commentary on individual or individuals' tweets. When asked about the latest tweet from Lineker, while fashioning himself as a darling of the political left, Lineker has been notable in his silence over countries like Russia competing internationally despite the invasion of Ukraine, and Qatar, who hosted the World Cup in 2022 despite their horrific human rights record. Lineker has always said that his politics are separate from his football opinions, but has he finally mixed the two here. I couldn't have messed that last line up anymore. I tried. I gave it a good go. Yeah. I kind of fear a bit for Gary Lineker, really, in a curious way, because my initial thought on this was everything I just said there about the Russian, where was his outrage on Russia? What about Qatar? And there's a plethora of other examples in that. He could argue in defence, it's a retweet. It's not what he wrote. A retweet is there. You put it up there for debate. I don't think that will wash because it is Gary Lineker. So my only conclusion out of all of this is that he's not very well. I can only think that Gary has... Because why would you constantly do this? And in this case, something that is deeply upsetting and distressing to many people as well. It's contradictory. It's anti-intellectual. It's a bit silly. I kind of can only conclude Gary Lineker is writing...
Well, you think he's lost the plot?
I think he's writing a resignation speech, but in instalments, frankly, to the BBC.
Is he trying to goad the BBC?
I think he's doing that. He knows he's going to go. He doesn't really care. But I think anyone who's kind of levels of integrity have gone this far is probably not very well. Hashtag help Gary.
I don't know.
I can't think of any other reason why somebody would go.
Or that he feels bigger, sorry.
No, go on.
He feels bigger than the impartiality rules. He's trying to prove something. He's like a child and you tell them not to do it and he keeps doing it.
Well, he's either stupid or unwell, is my point.
But yeah. What makes you think he's unwell? Because he's saying that Israel should be sanctioned?
Not the specifics. The fact that the mechanics of this story have been acted out a number of times with Lineker. He's constantly been told, don't do this, don't go there. He must know full well that, even somebody who has very strong views against Israel would usually be consistent with the Russia or the Qatari example.
Yeah, I mean, I always defend Gary Lineker on these things, even when he's having a go at the Tories, because I say he's a sports presenter, not a politics presenter. I don't want my politics reporters revealing their politics. They're meant to be above politics. And I defend his right to free speech. And I criticise him because I think it does a lot of damage to the BBC. I think there are a lot of staff at the BBC, they're going through a very tough time at the moment. They say, we need another Gary Lineker row like a hole in the head. But I do think this has crossed a line. I wouldn't defend it at all because it's about sport. And actually, although we would probably all agree that Russia should be banned from international events because of the invasion of Ukraine, the Israel-Gaza thing is much more complicated and nuanced. And also, generally speaking, most people say sport should be separate from politics. Sports is the arena where people can come together and you should only kind of bring politics to bear on it at the last resort. To be fair to Gary Lineker, he was quite critical of Qatar. In fact, he got quite a big kicking for raising it on the World Cup coverage.
He did.
But I do think this is a pretty outrageous thing for him to say, and I don't think he should get away with it.
What do you mean, Ed? You don't think he should get away with it?
I think, the BBC has sanctioned him before. I think he's crossed the line. I think it's gone far too far now, and I think he's letting down his colleagues. And I think it's a really outrageous thing to say that Israel should be kicked out of international sport.
I think people will watch this and say, but South Africa are taking them to court for possible human rights infractions. Yeah. So some people would say it's not...
bastion of moral respectability, South Africa.
So some people would say that it's not that crazy, though, for him to have this opinion. right? It's not like he's saying...
Yeah, it's like the Palestinian Football Authority's opinion. Which other football authorities call for Israel to be kicked out of football?
Well,
or indeed out of the Olympics?
None of us have yet.
Yeah.
That's not to say that in 5 years'
Don't
time,
forget,
we might not be saying
it was
that.
Israeli athletes that were massacred by Palestinian terrorists at the 1972 Olympics.
Yeah.
So it's quite resonant.
Anti-Semitism on the rise. I just think this is a really, really overly sensitive issue for him to wade into.
Yeah.
Whatever
it is, and he clearly didn't do his due diligence. So the organisation that tweeted this are affiliated to BDS, which is the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions, which doesn't recognise Israel.
Exactly.
You know, is an anti-Semitic, Jew-hating organisation. So he was an idiot for retweeting
Absolute idiot.
He did delete it. But Ed, I just want to check what are you saying he should be sacked?
Yeah, I think he should stand down. I think he's gone too far.
Wow.
A step too far.
All right.
Okay.